So welcome everyone. Welcome to this Boost Your Skills live event. My name's Jenny and I'm part of the Boost Your Skills team and I'm hosting the event today. I'm just going to run through some housekeeping before we hand over to Audrey for the event, and after that I will be in the chat helping out where needed. So if you have any questions, just give me a shout and I can either direct them to Audrey or answer them myself. This event is in webinar format, which means that you won't be able to turn your camera or microphone on, but we really want to hear from you. So please do introduce yourselves in the chat and join in with conversations as we go. We will be asking you things to pop in the chat and stuff. This event is a safe space with no judgment. So the Q&A is open throughout the event. Please feel free to pop any questions you have in there as we go. We don't want you to worry about asking any difficult questions. So if you do feel self-conscious or you're not sure about asking a question publicly, you can message me anonymously and I will ask on your behalf. We are live streaming this event to YouTube and the video will remain there for you to view at your convenience later on. So I will be sending a link to the video out to you after the event, along with the workbook that Audrey has put together for you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to one of my favourite presenters, Dr. Audrey Town. Audrey has hosted 3 events already with us and is here today to share some exclusive insights from her newly published book, The Leader's Guide to Wellbeing. Audrey will be sharing information on how to focus on your own well-being, and I will be sharing links to all of Audrey's books in the chat so you can continue to learn after the event. Audrey is a chartered psychologist and mental health broadcaster, along with winning awards, writing books and hosting community radio. So busy, and also doing events with us on the side. So I'm very pleased to introduce Audrey and pass you over to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. It's always such a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for joining me. Jenny's absolutely right. The Leader's Guide to Wellbeing has just been published, and this webinar today is based on one of the chapters. Now, whilst I've called it Following Your Passion, is that any help really? Or words to that effect. This chapter comes in towards the end of the book because often, certainly the people I write for have already been through a career and are thinking of changing careers potentially. But because you may well be in the middle of your studies right now, or perhaps in the middle of changing career, I thought it would be a really good first webinar to start off with, because we do look at whether following your passion is what's going to make you both well and successful. So let's make a start. Now, I've got a very controversial quote here by Todd: "Following your passion is no help. Full stop. No use whatsoever. You can be as passionate as you like, but actually that's not the best piece of advice." And it's important to open with this, to at least think a little bit critically about all the advice we tend to get, which is, oh, love what you do. You need to go and follow your dream and so on, because research has shown that passion does actually rate at 44% top of the priorities of millennials. That's at a relatively recent piece of research. Money rates at 42% for millennials. And Forbes in 2022 said people are quitting, people are leaving work. You heard about the Great Resignation. People are leaving work to follow their passion. But other research in 2022 says financial security really does come at the top. And so what I would be inclined to think here is, while 44% of people are saying passion, there's probably a good number of people who are still saying money on the other side of that, and it's pretty much a balance. The reason why I need you to look at this critically and to really think about that piece of advice, follow your passion, is yes, people are leaving to do that. Recently, I was asked to give comment on when a side hustle becomes a job, and a lot of people are happy. And admittedly, I am doing a job I love. And training for me started as a side hustle. I was doing independent training on my own while still in a full-time job working with the NHS. I was also training with them. So it wasn't as if I was doing anything too different, but working on my own is far more conducive to my well-being and far more conducive to what I love than working for a company. So be aware that a lot of people will love their job, but there are also many things they won't love about it. There are also ways you can love a job which you're doing for somebody else. You don't necessarily have to be out on your own. And most importantly, when it comes to following our passion, we also need to realize that there may not be a job available at that particular time. And that doesn't mean that there will never be a job available, because you just need to think back to when I was growing up, there was actually a stage school starting for reality TV, because reality TV was just beginning. And I found that very bizarre, because I'd grown up in a very theatre-based world where it was just very much your dancing, drama and singing. Influencers, that's a new job. And on the other side of the coin, something you might be really passionate about may not exist in a few years' time either. So you've heard I come from teaching. I was, before the pandemic, very against webinar-based teaching, because I never thought you could really get that sort of interaction that you would get face-to-face. And I still believe it's very difficult to read a room when it comes to being on a webinar. I can only respond if you write something in the chat or ask it in a Q&A. However, since the pandemic, we all had to learn, we had no choice. And I'm actually finding webinars are not only a great way of teaching well-being, but perhaps even a better way, because exactly as Jenny said earlier, sometimes people are afraid to ask questions because of the nature of the subject I teach. And through doing webinars, I've realized I get better questions, more insightful questions, more self-aware questions, so I can help better. And this is coming from someone who was very much, we need to be face-to-face. I've changed my ideas. I've changed my own passions. So let's look, first of all, at the ways in which we can start following our passion, because that's the conventional wisdom. And Ikigai, apologies if I've pronounced that wrongly, but Ikigai is the Japanese approach to finding what you love. And you can do this with me. You can do this with me. You can have a look and think about, what is it you love? What are all the things you love? And write that down. What are all the things that you really enjoy doing? What you love doing? So for me, I love speaking, I love teaching, I love writing, all of those things. Then you draw another circle, and that is what you're good at. So I may love teaching and speaking, but if I'm really bad at it, that's probably not going to help me very much. So what are you good at? Now, those two together, that allows you to find what you're passionate about. That allows you to find what you're passionate about. So what you love and what you're good at tends to be what you're passionate about. However, Ikigai doesn't stop there. You also need to look at, if you're going to monetize it, because don't forget, this may not pay the bills. But if you're going to monetize it, you have to add, well, what does the world need? What does the world need? And that's where, if what you love and what the world needs meets, that's your mission. If what you're good at and what the world needs meets, that's your profession. So for me, that's teaching in there. And that mix of love, good at, and what the world needs, passion, mission, and profession, Ikigai, that thing in the middle, the sweet spot, the thing that's going to keep you happy. But you will notice I've added in something, and Ikigai also adds this in as a little loop down the bottom. And I'm going to just draw it in like this, because it's, if you look at the images, it's quite a faint little loop. What can you get paid for? What can you get paid for? And the problem with following your passion is that you may not be financially sustainable. And if you are not financially sustainable, you may then be in a position where you love what you're doing, but if you can't put food on the table, that causes all other aspects of stress. And so the state of well-being, the state of being able to make a contribution, the state of feeling good about what you do, that has to include some kind of financial bottom line as well. And so where Ikigai is a great way of finding out the areas in which you may be able to make the most difference and do so with a smile on your face, it is really important to always remember, what can I get paid for? Who is going to buy this? But if you're sitting there going, oh, well, you know, I love doing this particular thing, but it's not there yet, don't worry. As I said, the job may not exist. You might be able to ask yourself, well, can I create that job? Can I make that job for myself? Can I position myself in such a way that people are going to pay for my services? If that's so, brilliant. Another problem is the job may be highly competitive. It may well exist, but there will be so many people going for it. And that's tough. But that might mean you have to then build your resilience, my other books, but it might also mean you have to get creative and maybe find a different way in, or a different field to do that particular thing for. You will notice there is an abundance of coaches online at the moment. I have my own concerns about some of those, because the whole point about professional training is not actually about the subject knowledge. The whole point about professional training is about your ethics and about your safeguarding and about being able to look after yourself. So I know today is going to feel a bit boring, because yes, there's passion on the one side, but you've got to think about finances. Yes, there's doing what I love, but you've got to think about how to look after yourself. Those are really important and we cannot forget them. So you'll notice there's an abundance of coaches. How do those coaches tell themselves apart? Well, some of them focus particularly on women. And even then, the subsection of women can be broken down into mums, into women aged 18 to 24, into women returning to work. There are lots of different subsets you can create as well. So even if your world is very competitive, you may be able to find a gap in the market, and that's okay too. The other thing to remember, however, is passion can change. Not only can passion change, but there will be certain aspects of every single thing that you do that you won't like. So this opens up my first question. I'd like you to answer in the chat. Think about your current course that you're doing, or job that you're doing, perhaps. And ideally, you're doing this course because you must love it in some way. At least I hope you do. Or you're doing that job because you love it, and maybe they're sponsoring you to do the course. Don't use these questions or these prompts if you're in a job where you're just doing it to make the money. I get that. That's not quite the same thing. But if you are taking a course you love or doing a job you love, I want you to ask yourself the following questions. Question number one: are you passionate about every single aspect of that? Every single aspect of that course, every single aspect of what you do? I can tell you right now, I'm not. I love what I do. Generally, I love writing, I love teaching, I love all of that. But then I also have to do my own accountancy. Well, I have an accountant, but I have to keep my books. I also have to follow up and write invoices. I have to do a lot of administration. I really, really dislike those bits. I'm not very good at them, and that probably is why I dislike them. But are you passionate about every single aspect of that job? What bits don't you like? And if you are aware of what bits you don't like, you will be able to change them better or more effectively. Or alternatively, you might be able to say, well, the other bits are so good, I can tolerate those. And that's okay too. So that's how you get a little bit more of a sense of satisfaction. And satisfaction is kind of what we're looking for. So I know we've got some answers here. Yes, love what I do. I love that. Love what I do, but not with the red tape. And am I passionate about all aspects? No, I don't like a lack. Yeah, absolutely. The point about following your passion is it's a bit rose tinted. People don't ever explain to you. There will always be bits of your job that you will not enjoy. There will always be bits of your job that you will have to deal with. But if what you are doing means that you can get over those bits that you don't enjoy so much, then actually you are on the pathway to feeling a sense of satisfaction. And I'm using the phrase satisfaction because one of the most important things, and I start my book with this, is that if we're looking for joy and just positivity and flourishing and all of those things, yes, it's lovely, it's great. But actually, that's not necessarily sustainable. What we need to remember when it comes to our overall well-being is something called a state of positive affect. Joy feeds into that. Joy can be part of that. Passion, all of those extreme positive emotions can be part of that. But actually, if you get a state of positive affect, that is what correlates with life satisfaction. That is what long-term correlates with people feeling, do you know what? I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. And that life satisfaction, that positive affect, It doesn't work on passion alone. It works on a holistic approach to life. And so when it comes to loving what you do and not the red tape, maybe consider with the red tape, are there reasons for that red tape? Do they keep us safe? Those kinds of things. Lack of clarity. Can I make changes there? Can I ask differently? Can I request different things? There are things that we can do to make those differences. And if we can identify what we're not passionate about, we can make those changes. But if we just simply go into everything going, I expect to be perfectly happy and passionate about it, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work that way. We have to think about what is going to holistically make us satisfied, peaceful, fulfilled. Next question. Is what you're passionate about now, the cause you're doing, perhaps, the job you're doing, perhaps, is it the same as 5 years ago, as what you're passionate about 5 years ago? What about 3 years ago? What about even at the start of this year? The other thing about passion is that can change. That can change. You may even be going into November thinking, and you see these Facebook posts and social media posts all the time, I never realized that I would be doing this at this time and I'm loving it. Great, good for you. But for someone like me, I look at that and go, okay, it means your passion has changed. That's okay. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. And I'm not saying your passion has to stay the same. All I'm saying is be aware it changes. And if you are aware it changes, then again, it can remind you that if you are doing, yes, what I feel passionate about, that may not be the case. Jobs can change, the world can change, you can change. So following your passion is not necessarily the same thing as following something that is just going to give you that overall sense of positive affect. That's the first part. So that is the issue that I have with following passion. And worse still, passion can even be destructive. Passion can even be destructive. And it's great. If your passion has stayed the same, great. I've always wanted to be a writer. I still am. That's something I'm still very passionate about, but my other passions have changed. And again, you need to be self-aware of the holistic you. So I'm glad for some it stayed the same, for others it won't have. But let's go back to how passion can be destructive. Now, it was a study in 2003, Valorand et al. They studied what they call two types of passion, harmonious passion and obsessive passion. Now, harmonious passion was something that they ascribed to things like a hobby, things that you had autonomous choice to do or not. However, obsessive passion was something that actually you felt you had to do. Often when somebody's side hobby, passion, enjoyment, became their job. And actually obsessive passion, where the activity controls the person. And the reason the activity often controls the person is not because of the thing itself, but because of the finances. So holistically, we've got to think about this. It became very unenjoyable, very stressful, in fact. So you've got to really think about holistic life. And we've got here, definitely not the same. What I'm doing now is completely changed. That's okay. Just be aware. Just be aware. So you could say, well, maybe follow your passion right now. That's hard too, actually. I would say, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, work out which bits you're not enjoying. That was the very first point that I made, because with every job, there will be bits you don't like. Ask yourself, can I change those bits? And if you can, make those changes if possible. However, if you can't, then you need to think about, well, maybe I need to think about changing because I might have changed too much, or the environment itself may have changed too much and there's no reconciliation to be found. That's okay. Except it's not, because human nature means we sometimes fall prey to what's known as the sunk cost bias. The sunk cost bias does what it says on the tin. We are biased by the fact we've sunk so much time and energy into something already. So we could be in a situation, and this can be true not only of jobs, it can be true of any situation you are in. So this can be true of friendships, of relationships, hobbies, and so on. You get to a point where you're in a long-term relationship in that situation, whatever that long-term relationship with that situation has been, and you're not liking it. Now, if we were just talking about change is easy, we just move on, you might think, well, I've changed too much, so that's not going to work. The situation's changed so much, that's not going to work. But what our psyche is actually saying to us is, oh, no. You've spent so much time in this situation. It's going to get better. Just spend a little bit longer. It will change. That's the sunk cost bias. And the sunk cost bias is very, very dangerous because it holds us back. The way I would like you to look at the sunk cost bias is as follows. I want you to see it as a staircase. The sunk cost bias is a staircase. If you are in a situation you dislike, you are here right now. Now, you've done the checks. You've asked yourself, are there things I can tweak? Are there things I can move? Are there things I can adapt? Are there ways I can go for help? Are there changes I can make? If there aren't, yes, it's a climb. It's a climb to get to neutral. This is neutral. And that may be leaving the job, leaving the relationship, even after you've spent many, many years in this. But the reason I say look at this, and leaving it's not going to suddenly make you happy. It's going to kind of make you free. That's it. It's not going to suddenly make you thrive. Where you will thrive is a further step up, or the potentials to thrive. And the problem here is because this bit isn't automatically happy, because this bit isn't automatically, oh yeah, I've left the bad experience, I've done the uphill climb, I've done the difficult bit. Oh, why am I not automatically happy? Oh, I best go back there again. You need to get to here before you can get to here. You need to take this step first. So that's the first thing to remember. Good question. Just define one of the terms. The key term I used was positive affect. Positive affect is a state, an affect is a state of being. That's what affect means. And it's different to positive emotion, because positive emotion, like joy, passion, excitement, it's fleeting and it's very big and it's very exciting and lovely. But affect is a constant state. The more positive emotion and joy and things that we can put in, the higher that positive state of affect is, that positive affect. A negative affect is similar, it's a state of general down, meh, and so on. And the more negativity, the more criticism, cynicism, all of those bigger emotions that we put into it, unfortunately, the lower affect we get. And affect, that general state that we're in, that ongoing state that we're in, is what is akin to life satisfaction. And if we have a general positive affect, in other words, we've been doing things that make us passionate, joyful, and happy, and we continually build on that, that positive affect it correlates with life satisfaction. So affect just simply is a state of being, and it's a constant state of being. Emotion is not. Positive emotion is not. We know that. We can be laughing one minute and crying the next. Positive affect is a general state of feeling, I'm pretty good. You could even say it was a general state of being here, but probably just feeling a little bit better than neutral. So don't fall prey to the sunk cost bias. It's always better to be closer to your potential than it is to be stuck somewhere down here, where although you've got to climb, and although the first stage you get to is not necessarily happiness, at least now you've only got one more step to go. One of the key messages in the book talks about this state, and I'm very much a positive psychologist. So what that means in terms of positive psychology is that we look at the tools of happiness. We look at what helps us thrive. We look at what helps you be well. And Martin Seligman, who is the founder of positive psychology, he said, he studied depression originally. He said, I would take depression away and anger away and sadness away, but that didn't leave me a happy person. It actually left me an empty person. It left me a neutral person. The tools of thriving are very different to the tools of removing sadness. So where he gave us a word of warning, what I'm saying is that's actually a positive, because although we may be in a state we don't like, and it may be difficult to get out of it, but we do, and then we suddenly go, oh, but I'm not actually happy. That's okay. You're a step closer to happiness. So that's something just to remember. The last little bit of this particular segment, because I've broken this down into three different things. And the first is just to talk about passion in general and why following your passion is not the best idea, is because you have to look at the holistic person. Is that Haffenbrack in 2013, Haffenbrack found that focusing on tools such as meditation and deep breathing actually helps us form a little bit of clarity in our decision making. Now, I know that not everybody likes meditation, and I know that not everybody likes deep breathing. What I will always say is, if you want to get into it, try and do so through using positive affirmations. So I'm going to do a little exercise with you now, and then I'm going to take some questions from you just about why passion is not the best thing to follow all the time. I'm going to do a little bit of an exercise now, which will help you make clearer decisions, because we're going to breathe deeply. You're going to follow this ball. You're going to breathe in when I bring the ball open, and then out when I close the ball. You breathe in through your nose and out through the mouth. And then you're going to repeat in your mind the following affirmations with me. And these will help you gain clarity. And that clarity will help you if you are trying to decide, well, what is it am I really passionate about? What is it I need to do in order to follow my passion? What changes do I need to make? And maybe you might struggle making those, but let's try these affirmations, because they will help you on your way. So breathing in, first of all, through the nose and out through the mouth. Repeat to yourself, I will listen to all feedback with kindness. Breathing in. I will listen to all feedback with kindness. Breathing out through the mouth. I will listen to all feedback with kindness. I trust in myself that I will make the best decisions for me. I trust in myself that I will make the best decisions for me. Last time. I trust in myself that I will make the best decisions for me. Nothing is permanent. All we can do is make the best choice in the current moment. Nothing is permanent. All we can do is make the best choice in the current moment. Nothing is permanent. All we can do is make the best choice in the current moment. So in this very short segment, I've looked at why following your passion is not the best advice. We have looked at ways in which you can identify your passion, but I do want to remind you, it is not enough if you are unable to live on it. If you are unhappy in your work, or you feel it's time to change because your passion has changed or the environment has changed so much, do not fall prey to the sunk cost bias. You do need to move through neutral before you get the opportunity for happiness, but that's okay. And remember the following things. The job that you will perhaps love and maybe want to do long term may not even exist yet. So the questions you might need to ask yourself are, can I create it? It might be it's highly competitive. So the questions you might need to ask yourself, well, who can I do my job for? Who can I actually bring in? Can I create a niche? But another thing you need to remember is something that you're passionate about may no longer last. And that's a very stark warning, a sad warning. We just need to look at the fact that we're moving towards electric cars. The automotive industry has changed a lot from the mechanic who likes to work with their hands and fix the cars. Now you need to understand computers and read sensors. It's a very different job. When I worked in the NHS, I met a janitor, and he was a piano tuner originally. That was his passion. But of course, no one's asking for pianos to be tuned anymore, because most of us, if we have pianos, we've got electric pianos. And so he was working as a janitor. Passion can mislead you. It's an important part of everything, but most importantly, and what correlates most with life satisfaction, is a sense of positive affect. Passion contributes to that, but it's not the only part of it. Positive affect in itself is something we can aim for. Passion is something that is fleeting. The 2023 Haffenbrack, Haffenbrack, Haffenbrack. Any questions now? Let's take some questions on that first little bit. And we're going to look at passion versus purpose in a minute. So any questions on that little bit first of all? Do we have any questions on why passion? Or I'm more than happy to be criticized. I'm more than happy to be challenged on any of this. Please, please, please do. If you're thinking, oh, actually, I really want to be passionate about everything, please come at me. I'm happy to answer. I'm happy to support. And I will never say that any question is silly. So please, if you have any questions. Yes. Oh, my goodness. Yes, it is certainly okay to have more than one passion. 100% okay to have more than one passion. The question you might need to ask yourself is, of those, is which one is a hobby, which one is going to pay you, which one is sustainable longer term if you want to use that as a job. When it comes to the workplace and our professions, we need to consider so many other elements, and passion is but one, and it's not enough on its own. That's why I've put together this particular one. I really dislike when people get told, you know, just follow your passion. Should you be taking on passions that are hobbies? Do you mean taking on passions to work that were hobbies? That may result in that problem of obsessive passion. So be careful, because you can lose so much passion for your hobby and the thing that you used to love doing when you have to do it every single day, day in, day out, 24 hours, because you're having to fulfill an order, or you're having to meet a customer's need, or so on. So yes, you can. And yes, many people do. But to make it a long-term thing, it takes a lot of other work, and passion alone is not sustainable. You often need to get a team together. You often need to build bigger. Otherwise, you end up 9 times out of 10 hating what it is you're doing, sadly. And how can a state of positive effect be cultivated? Great question. Doing things that bring us joy, bring us positivity, making note of those things, knowing what it is we need, and being kind to ourselves, giving that to ourselves, speaking to ourselves compassionately. All of those things can just build our state of positive effect. Engaging in more positive emotions than negative ones. It will. Gratitude is another great way as well. Any other questions, or shall I move on to the next part, which is passion versus purpose? This is quite fun. It just delves a little bit deeper. I'm just going to have a quick look at the Q&A, because I think, was there are jobs the main factor in terms of pursuit, in terms of passion pursuits and of well-being? If I understand the question is, if we're looking for passion and well-being, is the job one of the main ways of getting there? The answer to that, if that is the question, if I've understood it correctly, yes and no. You've heard of live to work, work to live, but also when it comes to work, yes, work can be a great source of well-being. It may or may not be a source of passion, as we've discussed. But in terms of it being a source of well-being, it is a place where you can achieve. It is a place where you can upskill. It is a place where you can demonstrate how good you are at things. It's a place where you can have healthy relationships and meet other people and engage your brain and learn different things and get curious and all of those things that lead to positive affect. So yes, it's a great place to encourage well-being, but it's not the only place. And the key thing I've said about passion here and well-being is that passion alone is not enough. You have to be able to live. So if your work is not stimulating you in that way, what it might be doing is paying for you to be stimulated in that way. And if your job is paying you enough money, even though you dislike the job itself, then just make sure that you're spending that money on those things that make you well. So that's where we come back to work to live, live to work. So hopefully that might give an answer to that question. If I've understood it correctly. If I haven't, please rephrase it and I will answer that. In terms of professional main passion would be accountancy as a career goal, but yes, okay, I love this. Yeah, great. Thank you for explaining this. You can take on interior design as a profession, but if you were going to do that, so I would say definitely is a hobby. Definitely is a hobby because you've got a passion for it. Definitely, yes. And your accountancy may well pay for that. Remember, work to live. So that's great. But what I would say is if you're going to take it on as a hobby, as a passion, what I would suggest you do is you keep on the accountancy because that's paying the bills and have that second stream of income. And only when you are ready and sustainable and you've decided you actually like it enough to do it full time, that's when you change it over. So yes, you can do both. Definitely as a hobby, no question about that. But as a profession, try it as a hobby, a second stream of income, job on the side hustle for a while. You can earn up to £1,000 from a side hustle every single tax year without having to declare that as tax, as long as you're not earning any more than that anywhere else. So just to clarify that point there. But you can earn up to 1,000 as a side hustle without having to worry about going self-employed or saying that you're self-employed. Okay, let's talk about passion and purpose, because this is where people get a little bit confused. I'm actually going to now suggest that following our purpose or finding purpose and meaning is actually more important than passion. So on the one hand, we're always told, oh, follow your passion. I'm now going to suggest to you, if you're going to follow anything, follow a purpose. Now, this comes from Seligman. He talks a lot about purpose. He talks about, and the person who asked about how to build positive affect, PERMA is a way of doing this, and that is engage in more things that bring you joy and positive emotions, get engaged, have a sense of flow with what you're doing, have healthy relationships, find meaning, and be able to achieve. That is Seligman's 5 pillars of happiness, 5 pillars of being well. He also talks about having, it's like Aristotle's talk about a good life, a meaningful life, and a pleasant life. But what Seligman also talks about is, he says, of those 5 things, and these are just 5 things we need to try and engage on every day, the 3 most important aspects of them are healthy relationships. Having healthy relationships is absolutely key. Meaning and purpose. Meaning and purpose is also absolutely key to us finding life satisfaction and happiness and well-being and all of those things. And engagement, what he describes as being in a state of flow. If we have those 3, and the workplace is a great place to have those 3 things, or a hobby might be a great place to have those 3 things, then we're more likely to hit that positive affect, that long-term life satisfaction, that sense of overall well-being. So let's look at purpose now. This is a helpful way of thinking about purpose and meaning in the workplace. And the funny thing is, this is a very old piece of research, a very old piece of research. In 1959, Hertzberg said the following things give us a sense of happiness at work. The following 6 things, sorry. He says salary, fair salary, that's important to us, status and security. And then he talks about responsibility. Now, he also says healthy relationships are key, achievement and recognition of our work is key, and the opportunity to advance and grow. You will notice that back in 1959, they were already saying, yes, there's the psychological aspects of a job that are really important, but there's the practical aspects of the job that are really important as well. When it comes to finding purpose in what we do, meaning is key. Meaning is key. You may love doing something, but it might actually not be meaningful. So next question to you. Think about what you love doing and think about whether it's meaningful to you. Now think about something you find meaningful and ask yourself, could I love doing it? And let's have some information in the chat. What is meaningful to you? And could you love doing it long term? What are you passionate about? And actually, does it have meaning? Does it have any meaning? Have a think. I can give some examples, or I can just waiting for anyone to join in the chat. But the whole problem when it comes to passion is it's fleeting. Meaning tends to stay longer. I apply this to my own career. I'm a teacher. I've always been a teacher. I was trained as a teacher. I was trained as a teacher back in 2003, so 20 years ago. Now, what is meaningful to me, and what I'm passionate about, is standing up and speaking in front of a class. That's great. What is meaningful to me is making a difference to people, is helping them, is seeing people grow, seeing people change. That's meaningful. And so whilst I absolutely love, I have now a podcast, I broadcast, I give psychological comment, I'm a mental health broadcaster. I'm not a broadcaster. I don't just stand and read out a program or something like that. I really like to focus on what's helpful to people. I really like to focus on what can bring people change. That is more sustainable to me than if I was simply, I mean, yeah, wouldn't it be lovely to present Strictly Come Dancing or whatever, but that would be less meaningful to me. So again, when it comes to your passion, break it down. And right from 1959, meaning was key. Right from 1959, meaning was key. 2016, people looked at this subject again. And again, they talked about things like a lack of negatives, you're good at it. So all the stuff that you talk about when it comes to passion, helping others, engaging, meaning. Passion is not enough. Purpose comes up again. McCaskill, 2016. Yes, independence, variety, feedback, all of those things, contribution and purpose. That's what people are finding are really important to us. Right from 1959, having meaning in what we do is key. And you'll notice back in 1959, and I know the time was very different, it doesn't say loving what you do, it's key. I love this. Singing and traveling is the less meaningful, but you probably enjoy that because you wouldn't be doing it otherwise. But working with the children, helping them, encouraging them through singing, through doing all of that, that's lovely. That makes us more likely to stay, making that difference. Most of us actually confuse passion with wanting to make a difference to others. So now we're going to use the information that I've given you with another task. It's a nice statement. I don't know what I find meaningful yet. Would I love doing what I find meaningful? Probably, yeah. Meaning comes first, passion comes second. Again, another good reason why purpose is perhaps important. I think if the goal is to succeed, purpose is more resilient long term, where passion, you could be less satisfied at some point. Absolutely. When it comes to passion, it changes so much. I'm really happy, Brittany, you brought up success, because don't confuse your not you personally, you in general, please don't confuse your definition of success with what everybody else seems to think success is. The definition of success in the dictionary is simply the achievement of a goal. The definition of success is not how many likes I get on social media, or how many followers I have, or how much wealth I have, or how many titles I have, or whether I drive a nice car, or whether I get to go to a resort every summer or something. It's not. That's not in the dictionary. It's the achievement of a goal. So we need to take a step back from what everybody else is telling us is success. And to me, yeah, it's achievement of a goal, but I think it's a lot to do with what you're passionate about. What you find purposeful. Passion comes out of that purpose. So let us have a look at how you can achieve for yourself, and how you can find a sense of meaning, and how you can find a sense of purpose in your choices. I'd like you to do this with me. This exercise is actually in the workbook. I'd like you to draw the circle. Now, in the workbook, it is divided into equal segments, but please don't divide this into equal segments. I would like you to think about all of the things that give your life meaning, all of the things that make you feel that sense of happiness. And it might be things like exercise, singing, traveling, all of those things. Put those things down and give them your level of importance. So for me, making change to people, making changes is really important. It's meaningful to me. Make change. Speaking and presenting, all of that, I love that. Not as important, but it's part of what I love. Financial freedom is also really important, because whilst you can work hard, you also need to have some time to relax as well. And then it might also be things like family. Family could be really important. That's important to me. Not as important as making change. Don't tell my husband that. It might be huger for you. That's okay. So you work it out. You look at what it is there. Now, if you're stuck, use some of these things on this side of the board. For Ali, you said, I think one of the problems that you had, that you would be more passionate if you had clarity. So clarity in work might actually be really important to you. That gives you that sense of everything being great. So you write out your own graph. The next thing you do is on a scale of 0 to 10. Where are you on that graph? So on making change, I'm about 6 or 7. I'm okay. I could be doing more, I think. I could be doing better, perhaps. I write books, I give lectures, I give talks. Maybe there's other things I could be doing. Doing quite a lot of presenting, so that's pretty high. That's 9 or 10, or at least 8 or 9. Financial freedom is not bad. It's not bad. I'm a freelancer, so it's on and off. Spending time with family, not doing enough of that at the moment, so that's a little bit on the lower side. Having clarity in my work, because I work for myself, I get quite a lot of clarity, so that's good. But what this graph does, is it gives you a visual representation of what you might be lacking right now. And given that these are all things that are important to you, these things kind of supersede passion as a statement. If you break passion down, you probably find it covers all of these things. So do this, and then have a look at it, and then look at which bits you need to notch up. And the reason I ask you to do these at different sizes is I look at this and kind of go, well, families at 2 or 3. So maybe I'm not feeling as well or as happy or as satisfied as I want to because I'm not seeing my family enough. But then again, making changes, that's also at a 5 or 6, but it's a much bigger segment. It's a much more meaningful aspect to me. It's a bigger priority for me. So if I've only got time to work on one thing, maybe that's the thing I need to work on. That's why I ask you to do your own sizes for this exercise. You work out what is meaningful to you, and you will probably find that passion comes into that, but it is not one singular thing, and it is not the be all and end all of everything that we do. Then the last thing I want you to do when it comes to sort of developing this mindset a little bit further is I would like you then to take a reverse engineering approach. I would like you to think about where you are right now. And I want you to look around your room, and I want you to look at where you are right now and what your current environment says to you about what's going to make you really happy. So you've got this idea, you know what you want, you know what's going to make you really happy, what's going to make you feel that sense of satisfaction. It's what's meaningful to you. Look around. Is your current environment conducive to that? So when I talk about making changes, my current environment is such that I can record my podcasts, I can do webinars, but I can't do anything on a bigger scale because I can't do that from a home office. I can't arrange events unless I go and hire somewhere and I go and do. So it's not enough for me. That's my reverse engineering approach. I'm looking at my goal and I'm looking at what I have right now. What I have right now is only okay for this level of what I want to do. Then you have to ask yourself what changes you want to make. And for me, if making changes, and I know that running events makes changes, being out in person makes changes, maybe I need to create a venue. That's something I'm working on personally. But those are the things you need to ask yourself. In your current situation, being aware of all the things you find meaningful, of all the things that will make you happy, of all the things that will also include something you're passionate about. Is your current setup conducive to making that happen and making that grow? If it is, great. If it's not, what changes do you need to make in order to make it easier to achieve what's really going to find meaning and bring happiness into your life? That's a little bit about meaning. Do you have any questions about meaning, purpose, and our passions? To recap, passion is not enough. We're told it is, it's not. at the very basic level, we need to live. So on the boring side, if passion doesn't pay for our bills, it's not enough in that respect. But actually, if you go a little bit deeper into it, it's probably also not enough if there's no meaning to it. It will fizzle out quite quickly. In the same way as I asked the question earlier, is your passion now the same as what it was 3 years ago, even a year ago? Passions change. Meaning doesn't usually. The things we find meaningful doesn't usually change. Any questions now? Any questions now for meaning versus passion? If not, I will move on to changing passion. The workbook is sent out afterwards, and these exercises are in there, and these questions that I've been asking are in there, so you can think about them and reflect on them yourself. Oh, I like that. I've got to do a research dissertation on meaningfulness and a sense of purpose. What are the main conceptual building blocks on this? I would go to positive psychology straight away. I would go to have a look, and that actually relates to this next question. I would go to have a look at Martin Seligman's work, because he talks a lot about what makes us happy, and he breaks it down into the ability to find meaning and to find purpose and to have a state of flow and healthy relationships. So that's actually where I would start. And the main conceptual building blocks on what gives us is positive psychology. It's positive psychology. It's the science of happiness. People who've looked at that, they say meaning and purpose, but there's kind of within that comes the next question: how does passion and meaning link with values? This is also what Seligman talks about, and this is actually what I'm going to go straight into when it comes to changing our passions. So if you're happy with me to do that, I'm actually going to go on and I'll hopefully answer those two questions in the next bit. This is important if you are changing jobs. This is important if you are moving somewhere else. This is important if you're trying to find what it is you like. Where people come to me as a coach, I don't do much coaching, I prefer training. Where people come to me as a coach, they come to me when they're looking to change careers. And often they come to me saying, I'm at the top of my career. I'm actually really good at this, but I'm just so unhappy. And that's kind of where it all starts. And often what's happened is these people, and perhaps even yourselves, if you're not aware of this, have been promoted on their skills rather than their strengths. And that, Ali, is a conceptual building block from positive psychology. It's talking about our strengths, and our strengths are also what Seligman calls our values in action. So that answers, hopefully addresses the next question. To lead into this, I'd like you to do the following. Write out a little grid of skills and strengths. List down all the things that you love doing, but this is how you divide it. Anything that you love doing, but it exhausts you, put it under skills. Anything that you love doing, but you're energized by it. You can learn more, but you're energized by it, put it under strengths. Just to give you an example, to make that clear, I'm an exceptionally good organizer. I'm so good at organizing, people expect me, my friends now expect me to organize everything as well. I hate it. I absolutely hate organization, absolutely detest organization. And yet, for a couple of years, I did event organization as a job because I was good at it and did enjoy it. So that's what I mean. Skills are the things that you're good at, but they exhaust you. You've had to learn to do them. You may be really good at them, but they exhaust you. Strengths are the things that you absolutely love doing. Now, once you've done that, please don't feel ashamed if your strengths, the things that you love, are things like spreadsheets. That's okay. It's great. If you love it, great. One exercise that I used to do with my class was talking about job descriptions. And many people, when they were writing a job description, they would talk about things like evening work and lone work as negatives. And that's only because they found them negative. There are many people who actually love that. So just because you don't like something, so if you so don't ever think any of your strengths, if you like it and you're good at it, don't feel embarrassed, put it there. So now you've got your strengths and your skills broken down. That is probably the key thing to think about. When it comes to enjoyment and well-being and overall positive affect and satisfaction when it comes to our work, it is not passion, it is meaning, it is also playing to our strengths. To help us even further, Seligman created a psychometric, and it's called the Values in Action psychometric. And this is to help us when it comes to finding aspects of our job and things to concentrate on in our work to make us feel better. And so this is how passion links with values. The values in action, if you go to www.authentichappiness.sas.upenn.edu, it's, in other words, it's the University of Pennsylvania website. Or if you type in authentic happiness into Google, you will find it. You will also find a series of questionnaires. Go to the one that says VIA, character strengths, values in action, character strengths. And it will give you, there's 2 versions of it. Well, actually 3, there's a child's version of it. You don't want that one, but there'll be a short version and a long version. The long version does take about 20 minutes. I will say that. You do need to sign up to the website, but they don't spam you. They just use it for their own research purposes. So that's why you need to sign up to it. But if you sign up to the website, you get access to all of their questionnaires. And if you've got the odd 20 minutes here and there, they are really interesting to do. But this one, VIA character strength, it breaks down your strengths, the things that you find meaningful and the things that probably you will be able to get passionate about into the following characteristics. Strengths related to courage, so things like bravery, honesty, perseverance, and zest. And you will recognize they're called strengths, but you will recognize that they are value words, things that are important to us, meaningful to us. Justice, such as fairness, leadership, and teamwork. Wisdom, creativity, curiosity, judgment, love of learning and perspective. Humanity, kindness, love, and social intelligence. Temperance, which is forgiveness, humility, prudence, and self-regulation. And transcendence, appreciation of beauty and excellence, gratitude, hope, optimism, and future thinking, harmony, and spirituality. And what the Values in Action test does is it gives you your top 5, and they call them character strengths, things that are really good, things that you're really good at and that you value a lot. Now, the way that you can use this when it comes to your work and finding meaning and therefore enjoyment in what it is you do is as follows. As an example, my top 5 character strengths, I'm going to double check them actually because I've got them written down. Back in 2020, they were zest, gratitude, curiosity, hope, and love of learning. In 2023, they were kind of similar, but in a different order. Creativity came first, then love of learning, gratitude, curiosity, and zest. So creativity had replaced hope. Hope is still up there. It also gives you the bottom ones as well, the ones that you really kind of don't like doing. Now, the way I use this to help me when it comes to career choices and to finding places in which you will be happy is that I look at those values and work out ways of bringing those values into the work that I do. So that's another way to bring that positivity in and wellness into your work, and it's not through passion. So for me, zest, enthusiasm, happiness, that's really important to me. That's a value that that comes out top in my choices. And so what I do, and I'm in the process of now hiring staff, I'm in the process of working within a team, those are characteristics that I look for, because it's great to have people who really know their job, but if the fit isn't right, that can actually change how the whole organization, how the whole team functions. But another way that you can also use these strengths is as follows. If, for example, bravery is actually one of my lowest, it probably is my lowest strength. So they give you your top 5. I think it gives you your bottom 3 as well. Bravery is one of my lowest. I really hate confrontation. I hate going up to people and challenging them about anything. But you can use your higher strengths, especially if they come under the same category, to get through those difficult moments, the bits that you're less passionate about. You can use your meaning, you can use values and strength to do that. So what I tend to do if I have to confront someone about something is not go in and shoot from the hip, is not go in and be, oh, why have you done this, and confrontational and jump into conflict. I go in as positive as possible. Hi, it's so great that you've done all of those things, and can we just chat about this particular thing instead? And it helps me. I'm not saying that's the best way of doing it, but it can actually really help you find a lot more happiness in what it is you do. So that's how passion and purpose and meaning can almost find this hierarchy. What I will say to you though is, when it comes to changing jobs, one of the biggest problems that we have is that we think that we need to follow what we love. And I'm saying, first of all, that's not true. It is okay to move on. It is always okay to change your mind. It is always okay to do something different because the world is no longer suitable, or the environment is no longer suitable to what you love. But please remember the following things. Yes, move on. And don't fall prey to the sunk cost bias as you do it. All jobs are going to have bits you won't be passionate about. And ways you can deal with that are find meaning and use your character strengths. Working hard is actually rewarding. So even if it feels difficult, that can actually bring its rewards. If you are looking to change, have a side hustle or an exit strategy. And with relating to that is, this is a new concept that I want to bring in, and I know it's quite late to bring it in, but it relates to positive affect. In a state of positive affect, other positive psychology researchers have actually found we are more likely to do something called broadening and building our knowledge. So when we are feeling okay, when we're feeling good, we're more likely to engage with things like curiosity. We're more likely to engage with things like finding out more, learning more. And where this can really serve us quite well is in that state of positive affect, even though it has nothing to do with passion, it's got nothing to do with strengths, nothing to do with meaning. If we are always learning a little bit more, if the opportunity arises where we can make a change, we might be ready to take it. That's just another added extra to throw in there. Work is not the only important thing in the world. It can feel like it because it takes up a lot of our day. But I come back to, do you work to live or live to work? Both are okay. Both are okay because most people will say they allow us to then engage in something that we're passionate about either side. I would say it makes them more okay if you engage in something you find meaningful either side. So to summarize, you need to find a balance between what you love and what will sustain you. However, what you love can be broken down into what you find meaningful and what your own strengths draw you to, what your own values draw you to. And the last phrase I will leave you with when it comes to making your choices is something that I actually wrote in my very first book, which is Be a Great Manager Now. And I wrote it when it came to recruitment, but it's just as important when you're choosing your careers. You need to have the skills for the job. You need to have the will, the motivation to do the job, but you also need to fit the bill. Skills will fit the bill. And fit the bill can be taken in two ways. One, you need to fit your financial needs, but also you need to fit your overall cultural needs as well. So following your passion, not the best advice in the world. Following something you find meaningful, being able to engage your strengths, and also knowing that the landscape of life is so different now. Things can change, you can make the changes. That's just as important. We need to teach for the world that we're living in, not the world that we thought we used to be in. So thank you for your time. And please, if you've got any questions, ask them now.
while everyone's thinking of questions, because I'm sure that they're going to be adding them very soon, I'll just ask a few of the pre-submitted questions that we were looking through earlier. So these are questions that people submitted when they signed up for the event. So the first question is from a second-year undergrad student who said, can you be a productive leader if you come from a socially disadvantaged background and carry psychological trauma, and how would you go about doing that?
Yes, you can, is the simple answer. Absolutely. You'll probably be hard pressed to find any leaders who did not carry some kind of psychological trauma. And when I mean trauma, it's not necessarily the big T traumas. It can be little tiny T micro traumas as well that people carry with them. In actual fact, what you're finding now is there's a lot of research suggesting that leaders share a lot of their foibles, a lot of their difficulties, a lot of their struggles, a lot of their failures, because it makes them more human. And that research is by Lauren Howe. She's at the University of Zurich. Now, it's important to also recognize, we're not saying the leaders should all go around going, oh yeah, I'm a complete failure, but it's important for anyone to use the resilience that they've built up from their past, because that will help you springboard into the future. So actually going through difficulty is perfectly okay. What I would always suggest, though, is that anyone who recognizes that they've been through things and maybe are experiencing something which from maybe their teams that's triggering something emotional in them, go and get that extra support, go and get the extra help, professional intervention to support you and work through or process some of those things. But there's absolutely no reason why any upbringing, any experiences in your past should affect you or stop you from being a good leader.
Thank you. Next question is from a third-year undergraduate student who said, if you could synthesize your expertise into 3 sentences to help others' well-being, what would those 3 sentences be?
That's a really big question. My key things are: know what your goal is. Know what your goal is. Know what you're aiming for. Because unless you know what you're aiming for, how do you know you've got there? And now that goal can change. That's okay. But you've always got to have something clear in mind to aim for. So that's the first one, know your goal. The second thing is, for me, now I haven't talked about it very much, but for me, it's about surrounding yourself with a positive or conducive network to where you want to get to. Napoleon Hill calls this the mastermind network. And the reason he talks about the mastermind network is friends and family are not always the most helpful when it comes to your career, because friends and family want you to be happy. And they will say things like, if you're really unhappy somewhere, they'll say, just leave. And you don't want to just leave necessarily. You might want support. You might want help. So being in that mastermind network, mastermind alliance, he calls it, is a group of people who you'll be able to seek that professional or career-based support from. So surround yourself with people who are conducive to where you want to get to. And that also means being aware. So don't be afraid to edit your life, being aware of which people will mention your name in a crowded room and which people absolutely would not. So maybe edit accordingly. So know your goals, surround yourself with the right people, and know what healthy looks like. Know what healthy actually feels like. Know what being well actually feels like to you, because it will look really different to other people. I had a conversation with somebody recently about healthy and unhealthy relationships. So I know this is slightly off the topic, but it's still, the point remains the same. And they said to me, I knew what a toxic relationship was, but I didn't actually know what a healthy relationship was. And this is actually quite important. We often know what makes us unhappy. We often know what makes us, if we remember those steps that I showed you, we know what keeps us down there. And then suddenly we don't have it anymore. And then we suddenly feel, oh, this isn't enough. But actually, from that place of neutrality, we can then aim for happiness and health if we know what it looks like and know what it feels like. So if you are in that state of flow, you find meaning, you're happy with what you're doing, you're feeling that sense of positive affect, recognize it and think about all of those different things that you are doing when that happens. So those are my 3: know your goal, surround yourself with the right people, and know what healthy looks like to you, and don't use other people's views of happiness and health and success, because that's not helpful.
That's a really good 3 points. I like them. So the last one on the list of pre-submitted questions was, what effects can equality, diversity and inclusion have on well-being?
That's huge. It can have huge positive effects. It can have huge negative effects as well. I'll give you an example. In my book, I had a chapter which I just called very boringly Equality, Diversity and Inclusion. And speaking to my editor, we decided that actually it was more important to focus around inclusivity. And that's what the chapter is now called. It's Inclusivity Matters. And the reason for that is diversity. Yes, it became quite a popular word, but now it's become a little bit of a checkbox. We can have absolutely everybody joining us. That's absolutely great. We can be as diverse as you like, but that's not enough. If you are hugely diverse, but you don't listen to people, you don't learn from people, you don't make appropriate adaptations for those people to thrive. So I give it another example of that. If you are in a situation whereby you've got different religions, now we've recently had Eid and Ramadan and fasting, and at my husband's work, he has a number of people who were fasting, and he suddenly realized there's a bit of a culture of you eat at your desk. But actually, if you're eating at your desk and the person next to you is fasting, it's a bit inappropriate. It doesn't sit well. And as soon as he realized, he immediately apologized and went and ate somewhere else, which was probably better for his own health as well. But it's little things like that people are often really understanding about, but they don't need to happen. And they can make people feel unincluded and in a way disrespected. And so it's not enough to have diversity alone. You have to have equality of voice, equality of listening to ideas, equality of adaptations that are made, as well as inclusivity. Another example, I talk a lot with Claire Vowell. She is a chartered psychologist who works with parents returning to the workplace. One of the problems she finds there when it comes to equality, diversity and inclusion is that working mums, yeah, we're great, let's have everyone coming back to work, but oh no, you can't have flexi time. Oh no, you can't pick your children up. Oh no, you have to be at all of those meetings, otherwise you can't get promoted. And those women are leaving. Those women are leaving, which means that no change is being made because nothing's being learned. And not only are very valuable women leaving, but they're taking their expertise with them as well. So it might even have knock-on effects to the organization itself. So equality, diversity, and inclusivity is hugely important for well-being. It can work both ways, but I would say of the two, of the three, inclusivity is the most important. Equality kind of comes next, and then diversity, yeah, great, lovely, it's really good, but we're all doing that right now. It's the other two that are really, really key.
Oh, very good points. I think everyone's being a little bit quiet, so I think they've probably all asked the questions that they were planning to ask. But if you do think of anything in the next couple of minutes, then please do ask it. In the meantime, I'm just going to say again for people that are a little bit late joining us that this event is being live streamed to YouTube and we will be saving it there. So if you do want to re-watch any of it, it will be sent out in a link to you after the event along with the workbook. So you can work through and do both at the same time if you want, and do the video and the workbook at the same time. The video will be left on our YouTube page permanently, so you can come back to it again and again if you need to. And also watch all of Audrey's last events that she's done previously with us. So that's all available. I think we probably are coming to an end because no one's asking any more questions. You must have answered them already in all of the sort of other bits. I'm going to just pop the links to Audrey's books again into the chat, and I will also send out links to that in the follow-up email, just so if you do want to carry on reading or learning anything else, then they will all be linked to in the follow-up email.
The workbook will be sent out with the follow-up email, so you'll get it automatically.
Yeah, it will be within the next couple of days, so just keep an eye on your inbox, and we will send everything out that you need, and I'll include the link to that questionnaire as well, so that you can do that side of things as well. Great. Okay, well, thank you very much, Audrey. That, as always, was excellent, and I was busy scribbling notes alongside all the attendees, so thank you very much for that. And to anyone that is attending this event, we do have a whole schedule of events coming up, so just we'll send out a link to this upcoming schedule, and please feel free to join us for any of our upcoming events, or all of them. We'd love to have you there. So great, thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to end the webinar now. So I always feel a bit bad doing this because it finishes it for everyone, but just one last thank you very much.